All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and go beyond the gallery wall. Let's dive deep into this world to understand not just what art is, but who makes it, and, maybe most importantly, who decides that it becomes a national treasure.
So yeah, those are the two big questions we're really going to dig into. This explainer is going to take us on a journey, starting with that first spark of an idea in a creator's mind and following it all the way to the very heart of a nation's cultural identity.
Okay, so first things first, let's tackle a really fundamental distinction. We hear the words artist and artisan all the time, but what actually separates them? What's the real difference?
To get our brains warmed up, just look at these two objects for a second. One is this perfectly made functional vase, the other is a sculpture, right? It's been broken and put back together to say something about loss. Now, at first glance, it seems pretty obvious which one is art and which one is craft, doesn't it? Well, it's not quite that simple. The distinction is really more about intent than what you're looking at.
And that's the absolute crucial point here. The difference isn't about skill. Both creators can be absolute masters of their medium. It all boils down to intent. As you can see here, an artist is usually driven by self-expression, by wanting to challenge traditions. An artisan, on the other hand, is often driven by mastering a tradition, by achieving perfect functionality.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This whole artist versus artisan thing, it's not black and white. It's not a simple choice. It's a spectrum, a whole range of creativity. A creator can land anywhere on this line, from being laser-focused on function to being someone who bridges both of those worlds.
So way over on one end of that spectrum, you've got the pure artisan. A fantastic example is a traditional Japanese swordsmith. For them, function is everything. The sword has to be a perfect weapon first and foremost. Its beauty, well, that comes from its perfect function. It's a byproduct of mastery.
Okay, so as we move along that spectrum, we run into the artistic artisan. And a Navajo weaver is just the perfect example of this. They're working within this incredibly deep traditional craft, right? But they pour their own unique vision, their personal creativity, and some really profound cultural symbolism into every single piece. It's both a functional object and a deeply personal work of art. All right, so a work is created. Now what? It doesn't just magically show up in a museum, right? There's a whole journey it has to take. So let's follow that path and see how a piece of art builds its legacy through a pretty complex network. See, no piece of art exists in a vacuum. It enters this complex, interconnected web of people and places that we call the art world ecosystem. This is the whole shebang, everything that helps a piece of art get seen, understood, valued, and hopefully saved for the future.
And this ecosystem, it's full of key players. It all starts with the artist, of course, but then you've got the gallery owners who put the work out there, the curators who give it context, the critics who argue about it, and the historians who write it into the history books. Every single one of them has a crucial part to play.
And this really lays out that whole journey perfectly. First, there's the creation. Then it gets exhibited somewhere. Then comes the reception. That's when critics and you, the public, start talking about it. That talk leads to valuation, both in terms of culture and, money. And finally, its legacy is cemented by historians and educators so it doesn't get forgotten.
Now here in the Philippines, that journey can lead to the very top, the nation's highest honors. We're talking about the pinnacle of recognition, the awards that solidify a creator's contribution to our national culture.
And there are really two distinct paths to that peak. You have the Order of National Artists, which is all about celebrating individual, often game-changing achievement in fields like painting or writing. And then you have the Gawad sa Manlilika ng Bayan, or GAMABA. This one honors the masters of our traditional folk arts, the weavers, the chanters, and it's all about preserving our living heritage.
And this right here is so important to get. When someone is named a national artist, it's way more than just a personal trophy. The award is basically the nation saying, pay attention, this work matters. This is what we, as a people, are going to study and remember as a high point of our creative identity.
GAMABA, on the other hand, plays a totally different and, you could say, a much more urgent role. It sees the awardee not just as an amazing creator, but as a living library of an entire tradition. So the award is an honor, for sure, but it's also a lifeline, a desperate attempt to preserve cultural knowledge that could literally vanish when a master passes away.
So that brings us to the big "so what" question. Why have these awards at all?
Why does this entire system of creating, validating, and recognizing art matter so much, especially for a country like the Philippines?
Well, the impact is absolutely massive. These awards put Filipino creativity on the map, both at home and around the world. They create role models for young people to look up to, they open up new opportunities, but most critically, they are one of our most powerful tools for preserving our national heritage and making sure our unique stories don't get lost to time.
And that leaves us with one final, big question to chew on. When it comes to a nation's cultural survival, what's more critical? Honoring the innovator who smashes boundaries and forges new paths, or honoring the master who keeps a tradition from fading away forever? It's a tough one, and there's definitely no easy answer.